Hi guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to make this 3D Mike Wazowski from Monsters Inc. And you're going to need a total of 111 bands. If you want to make him exactly like this one, you're going to need 11 whites, 3 blacks, 1 teal for the eye, and 96 green bands for the rest of his body. So let's get started. First we're going to make the arms. And I already made one, so you're going to have to pause the video to make the second one, taking a single band from the center peg, from the first to the second, single, twist, double, and we'll come down 6 times. So that's what it should look like. You should have 6 single bands that was doubled, plus a single that we started with. Now taking a single band, we're going to twist it twice. So loop it on the last peg, twist it to the left once, twice, and loop it on the peg below it, like that. Another single band, same thing. We're going to twist it to the left once, twice, and loop it diagonally. One last band for his finger, once, twice, onto the side third peg. So that's what yours should look like. Now we'll do his fingers, and I'm going to do it like the teeth for my alligator. So we're going to loop it on the second peg from the bottom, twist to the left, crossing and making an X, twist to the right on the outside, push all the bands down, and then looping it up back onto the second peg from the bottom. Now on the left side of our loom, we're going to grab the bottom single and loop it up to the center. So that's what yours should look like, and then reach under, grab the bottom single on the second peg and loop it to the center like that, and you should have a knot in the middle. Let's do this 2 more times. Taking your single, loop it on the second, twist to the left over the first peg on the bottom, twist to the right, push everything down, and loop it back to the second peg. On the left side, grabbing the bottom single, loop it up to the center, and repeat for the top one. So you have a knot in the center, and let's take it off, get it onto our hook, and we need to do one more. This last finger, same thing, taking a single, twist it back, and loop it back to the first peg, and looping the bottom single up and over to the center and getting it onto our hook. And now we'll add it to the bottom on the 3 pegs for his fingertips, making sure it's pointing down. And these also act as a cap band, so we're going to go under it, grabbing the bottom single, and loop up and onto the center peg for all 3 pegs. Just go in, grabbing the bottom single, and loop up. Now loop up the center peg, reach in, grabbing the bottom 2 pegs, and very carefully loop up and onto itself, and continue all the way to the first peg. Just take everything off the loom. and set it aside for later. Now let's do the foot. I already made one, so you're going to have to pause the video to make your second. Taking a single, twist, double from the first to the second peg, and we'll do this 5 times. Single, twist, double, 2, that's 5, and now we'll come down 2 more for his toes. Single, twist, double, once, single, twist, double, twice, and then we'll come diagonally on the third peg from the bottom, like that, and repeat on the other side, and coming down once for both sides. So that's what it should look like. For the eye, horns, and toes, we're going to make the same knot. So we're going to need to make a total of 9 knots, and I'll show you how to make 2. I already made the 1 foot, so I'm going to make 6 total. So I made 2 whites and 2 blacks. So on your loom, we're going to take a single band. We're going to loop it on the second peg from the bottom, twist to the left, crossing it over the bottommost peg, twist to the right. We created an X in the center, and then looping the band over the second peg from the bottom, like that, and twist to the right again, and looping it over the second peg from the bottom. So you should have an X at the bottom and 2 loops up on top. Now we're going to reach on the left side, grabbing the bottom single near the bottommost peg. Grab that bottom single, loop it up and over to the center, so that creates that knot in the center, and repeat for the top one. So that's what yours should look like. So let's do our second one, taking a single black band, looping it from the second peg from the bottom, twist to the left, creating an X in the center over the bottommost peg, hold it down, twist to the right, creating an X on the outside, and looping that band over the second peg from the bottom. So that's what yours should look like. Hold the X down, twist to the right, and looping the band over the second peg from the bottom. Once again, you should have 2 loops up on top and an X in the bottom. Now pull the bottom loop on the left side up and over to the center, and repeat for the other side, pulling the bottom single up and over to the center, creating the knot. So go ahead and pause the video and make a total of 9 loops like this, 6 whites and 3 blacks, and come back when you're done. After you made all your loops, we're going to take the 3 whites onto our hook, let's attach it to the end of our foot. So now taking our toes and putting it onto the 3 pegs at the bottom. These act also as a cap band, so we're going to go under, grabbing the bottom 2 single, and loop up and onto itself, creating teardrops, and continue up the side of our loom to the center. Let's work on the other side, reaching in, grabbing the bottom 2 bands, loop up and onto itself, and to the center. Now let's go in the center, same thing, grabbing the bottom 2 bands, loop up and onto itself. And everything is now on this center peg from the bottom. So the third one from the bottom. Now we're going to loop up all the way to the first peg. This is very tight, so go under, grabbing the bottom two bands, and very carefully, don't over pull, release any tension, and continue up. Let's take it off the loom. And put it aside, pause the video and make your second one, the foot and the arms. Let's make the eye. We're going to take a black loop off of our loom onto a hook, like that. Taking a single teal or whatever color you want your eye to be, looping it twice on one side and twice on the other. Now taking a single white band and pulling all those loops onto the single white band. Center your eye and put it aside to add to our face later. Now let's make the horn, and we're going to take the loops off of our loom onto a hook. Like that. And I'm going to put it on a single white band, twist double, and pulling all the loops onto the single white band for our horn. Even it out, and then everything goes onto two single green bands. Like that. Repeat for the other horn, taking a single white band, twist double, and you can make your horn whatever color you want. I'm doing it white and black. You can just do it all green if you want, or gray or whatever. Taking two single green bands and pulling the loops onto your green bands. Now on the loom, taking two green bands, we're going to loop it from the left first peg, cross in the center, and loop it to the second right peg. Getting our loops with the horn, putting it on the second peg on the left, twist in the center, and pulling it across to the first right peg. And make sure the horn's pointing down. Repeat for the other horn, loop it on the center first peg, cross in the center, and loop it to the center third peg. And make sure the horn's pointing down and closest to the center first peg. So that's what it should look like, and this is row number 1. Row number 2, we're taking a single white band, looping it from the first center to the left first peg, and for the rest we're covering with a single green band. Make sure the bottom bands are pushed down. And looping the bottom two bands up and over to the center. Push it down. And if you want your eye to be a little lower than this, then you can put a green band here and start your eye on the third row, but I started on my second. Before we go on to our third row, we're going to expand, taking these two loops off of the third center peg and moving it to the fourth center peg, like that. Now taking a single band off of the second side peg that's attached to the first and moving to the third. So reaching on the side second peg, pull off a single loop, check to make sure it's attached to the first, which this isn't. Pulling the other band off, it's attached to the first, moving it to the third, and then reattaching the one we took off. Repeat for the other side, pulling off the top loop. Check to make sure it's attached to the first, which it is, moving it to the third. So now we're covering 8 pegs, taking our eyes and looping it from the first left to the center first peg. For the rest, we're going to loop a single band around our loom to cover all our pegs. And now loop the bottom bands up and over. The second and third peg should each have a loop. Pull that up and over to the center, leaving 2 loops per peg. Go around your loom. Push everything down. That was row number 3. Row number 4, our last white for our eye, looping it from the first to the center first peg, then with a single band covering the rest of our 8 pegs. Once again, we're going to go around each peg, grabbing the bottom 2 bands, looping it up and over, leaving 2 loops left per peg. Row number 5, we're going to add our arms. Get our arms and attaching it from the second to the third peg on the left, and on the right we're attaching it on the first to second peg. Make sure our arms are sticking out. Now take a single band covering the rest of our 8 pegs and looping the bottom 2 bands up and over, leaving 2 loops left per peg. Push it down. That was row number 5. 6 and 7 we'll do the same way, taking a single band, covering the 8 pegs, and looping the bottom 2 bands up and over, leaving 2 loops left per peg. It's repetitive, so I'm just going to fast forward through rows 6 and 7. Push it down. That was row number 7 for me. And let's add the legs, getting the loops onto our hook. And we're going to attach it on the 2 loops off of the 4th center peg. So pull those 2 loops off, get our legs onto the loops, and reattaching those bands onto the 4th center peg. Get our other leg, same thing, getting the loops onto our hook, and we're attaching it onto the 2 loops off of the right 3rd peg. So pulling those 2 loops off, getting our legs onto the 2 loops, and we're just going to take it off the loom. So with the 2 loops, we're going counterclockwise, it's more comfortable, getting 2 loops off of each peg, the 8 pegs, making sure you grab the 2 loops off of each peg, going around counterclockwise and getting everything onto our hook. So there's Mike right now, And I'm taking some old bands and stuffing him. And you can stuff him with whatever you want. Don't overstuff him. Make sure he's nice and squishy. Now taking a single green band, and let's tie him off, pulling all the loops off of our hook and onto the single band and tying a slip knot. There he is, and let's tuck in the slip knot band. So there's Mike Wazowski. I hope you like him. Thanks for watching.